Thank you, Madam Chair, Tasma. Fellow presenters, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Anwar from Ministry of Education. So I'm here to present our experience in providing education for migrant children, specifically in the state of Sabah. Yeah, because given the time that we have, I can only focus on the Indonesian children in the plantations. There are other groups that doesn't permit me to, that the time doesn't permit me to address. So we are pleased to be here at this very important meeting, and I'd like to thank UNESCO Bangkok and partners for inviting Ministry of Education. I think we are at a very critical point in time as we move from EFA and MDG goals towards the new 15-year vision for sustainable development. But, ladies and gentlemen, business as usual will not take us any further than where we are today. I think this has been proven for the past 15 years. And as a matter of fact, there are more out-of-school children today as compared to 2 years ago. This is based on UIS statistics. So this is a grave concern if we were to move in providing education up to the secondary school level. So I believe we are here, we like to seek new inspirations, new ideas, new innovations, and perhaps even new developing partners. In short, for the sake of our future generation, we need FLS to work. And I do believe that this is the way forward for us. So for my presentation today, very quickly, I'd like to cover these 3 areas. Overview of the migrant situation in Malaysia, in Sabah, education for the Indonesian children in palm oil plantations, and challenges and way forward. I will go very fast on the first few slides to give you a little understanding of what Malaysia is facing in providing education for non-Malaysians, for migrant kids. So in Malaysia, we have been providing humanitarian aid to migrants from the early 1970s with the arrival of the Vietnamese boat people after the fall of Saigon. And over the past 40 years, we have been receiving our fair share of migrants, asylum seekers, refugees into the country. Workers from the Bangladesh, Philippines, escaping the conflict in southern Philippines, from Myanmar, fairly recently, Indonesia, Nepal, India, and of course, Bosnia, Vietnam, Pakistan, and most recently, from Syria. And for Malaysia, it is quite a unique situation because this is against the backdrop that the country is not a signatory to a number of international treaties. So we are not a signatory to the Convention of the Status of Refugees and the 1967 Protocol, not a signatory to the Convention relating to status of stateless person, nor the reduction of statelessness, the 1990 International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of All Migrant Workers and Members of Their Families, and even in CRC, we still have reservations on Articles 28(1)A on free and compulsory education at primary level. So this is the backdrop where Ministry of Education is working in providing education to many of these groups that are not within, in many ways, the jurisdiction of the ministry due to these conventions. Yeah, these are our barriers. So in speaking about governance, I need to provide this slide so that you understand the challenges that we face. We're talking about Sabah. Sabah is the easternmost state in Malaysia. And it is something special about Sabah. It holds an autonomous law, especially on immigrants, which differentiate it with other states in the country. So it is, when it comes to migrants, Sabah doesn't have to follow the federal government. It has its own autonomy when it comes to migrants coming into the state. Very quickly, the inflow, as I mentioned earlier, we have those coming from the Philippines, mainly, from the 1970s to 1984. they constitute as refugees. Those coming after 1984, they are no longer refugees because the war is somewhat over in the southern Philippines. And then we've got workers coming from south, from Kalimantan and the Indonesian islands. And we have migrants coming in from the peninsula. And we have a lot of Pakistanis actually coming and living in Sabah. Yeah? If you look into Sabah's population, it was fairly constant from the 1950s up to the 1980s. But then, within 20 years, the population tripled from about 800,000 plus in 1980 to almost more than 3 million within a span of 20 years. And the trend seems to be growing. Today, 2016, it is at 3.7 million. So this is a concern, not only for the state, but also for Malaysia. And today, if you look the one in brown, percentage of foreigners, Filipinos, Indonesian, and others in the state of Sabah, they make more than 30% today. So 1 in every 3 people in Sabah is a foreign national, and the number is growing fast. So going on to, that's the brief scenario of what it is in the country. Going straight to Sabah itself, the main groups are made of refugees and asylum seekers, mainly from the Philippines, legal workers who are legally employed in the state, illegal migrants, those who come in without permit but looking for greener pastures into the state, and we have a group of undocumented and stateless people. Stateless, like the sea gypsies or the Bajau, we call it in Bajau Laut community that roams the waters of Indonesia, Malaysia, and also Philippines. And why the graph is as such is because a person can be a refugee, but over the years, sometimes they fail to renew their passes. From being a refugee legally in the state, they become undocumented and illegal. Yeah? Some who are legal, but also they lose their employment, but wanted to stay in the state, they suddenly become illegal. So there's a lot of statuses within that graph. And going into the plantations now. So that is the overall scenario. So given the scenario that we have, and given the conventions that we are not a signatory to, what has happened is that there are many education providers for this group of people. Yeah? In Sabah, for example, MOE, we provide those who are legal in the state. So they can enter MOE schools, subject to a fee. We have the Federal Special Task Force that provides education for Filipino refugees. Yeah? We have the Indonesian and Philippine governments coming in. We have faith-based organizations, the mosques and the churches. They also provide education. We have individuals and also the communities themselves opening up schools. We have a pastor, a few pastors actually, who open up their houses and have classrooms to provide education. And we have the plantation companies. This is huge because the size of oil palm plantation in Sabah is very, very big. And they are the 3rd biggest in the world. So the number of workers, number of children in plantations are very big. So zooming into the plantation, so if you see the boom in population from the 1980s, mainly due to the migrants coming in to work in plantations. So when migrants come in and work in plantations, although at first the government says you can't bring your children, but over time, you know, the children are there deep in the plantations. So the main issues, of course, at that time, there were no providers for education. MOE is not providing because of the restraints that we have. And many of these plantations are very deep into the jungle. You have to travel on gravel and even timber road for 2 or 3 hours before you come to the settlement. So there's no providers, meaning that for many of these children, there's no access to any type of education. some places that do have education, the quality is very low, yeah, mainly provided by the community. As I mentioned earlier, location is an issue. Also, the value of education. What's the point of going to school or getting education where you will end up working in the plantation after all? So this is the mindset of parents. And also the opportunity cost. Might as well the child helps the parents working and make some money and help the family. So that is also a huge issue. And also, if we have education, there's no form of funding. There's no sustainability. You're not sure whether the school will exist the following year. So against this backdrop, what has happened recently, fairly recently, is bilateral cooperation between the Malaysian government and the Indonesian government. We started, the discussion started in 2011 by the foreign minister, and then followed by further discussion between the Prime Minister and the President of Indonesia, the previous President as well as the present President Joko Widodo. So what has happened, mainly due to this understanding between the two countries, we have now Indonesian schools established in Sabah. We have community learning centers in plantations. As of today, we have about 140 learning centers providing education to over 15,000 kids. And we have teachers from Indonesia that's being paid by the Indonesian government to come into the state to teach these children in plantations. So these are the three results that came about from the G2G understanding between the two countries. Yeah. So this is the partnership that we have today between the Indonesian government, the Malaysian government, and NGO that runs the schools in plantations and the plantation company. For the Malaysian government, we look into the curriculum. We advocate for the plantation schools to use the Malaysian curriculum. We look into the licenses of the schools, the teacher permit. Even you are Indonesian coming from Indonesia, working in Malaysia, you need a permit. We provide some teacher training, and also we did an assessment together with UNICEF and a local university, which in many ways has paved the way forward in improving the quality of education. For the plantation, it is a CSR for them. They provide the school building, and they pay the student fees. For every 50 children, the plantation pays 3,000 ringgit. This will cover the teacher salary and infrastructure and so on. They provide transportation for the children and also living quarters for the teachers, the Indonesian teachers and also some locally recruited teachers. And we have an NGO that actually runs the school. The plantation, they are in the business of planting oil palm. They are not in the business of education. So we have an NGO that runs the school, that provides primary education. They hire local teachers, because teachers in Indonesia, 500 plus is not enough. They pay the teacher's salary from the fees that they get from the plantation companies. They look into the curriculum, co-curricular activities, and also the provision of textbooks. The Indonesian government, they look into the primary and now secondary education. We started off with primary, but now students in plantations, they are able to obtain secondary education. They provide the teachers, and also some funding for the community learning centers, the curriculum, examination and accreditation, meaning that children, although they are in plantations in Sabah, they're able to sit for exams that's recognized by the government of Indonesia, and when they go back to Indonesia, they can enroll in a normal school. Okay, so these are the partnership that has that we have today, and also we have a lot of support coming in from UNICEF to look into this matter. So it is a win-win for education, win-win for children because they are in school. They are no longer in the plantations working as child laborers. For parents, they know that their children are in a safe place and there is the possibility of a better life for a better future for their kids. It's good for both governments, Indonesia and Malaysia. Indonesia because the children, Indonesian children are in school. For Malaysia is that we also believe that the best place for the child is of course in the school. Yeah, it's just that within the jurisdiction that we have, we are not able to open up the Malaysian schools for these kids deep in the plantation. And it's good for the plantation owners because parents are now realizing the value of education, the demand for education. If the plantation provides education for the children, they will stay. Oil palm is a labor-intensive industry. Without labor, you won't be able to harvest anything. So they are able to retain their workers if they provide education. So we see that. Okay, we see that happening too, which is good. So and the the important thing is that it's sustainable. It is sustainable. And we are getting more and more plantations wanting to provide education. And previously, it was the NGO that goes out, they come to the capital city, meet the plantation managers, and beg them to open schools. Now it's the other way around. The plantations are asking for the NGOs to come in and open up schools at their place. Yeah. Key challenges, of course, we do have issues with policies and also politics. Politics comes in. The society itself, there's a lot of issues between Malaysians and foreigners when the numbers are growing. So there's some, they feel that we are spending for non-Malaysians, so that is an issue. Security is also an issue. There was a conflict recently, armed conflict in Sabah between Malaysia and Philippines, and obviously the easiest is to blame on the migrants. Finance, of course, value of education and also attitude of the of parents in providing education for the kids, registration and documentation of the kids, and also we have to look into the existing laws, conventions, and the rights of a child. Two more slides. Oh, sorry, last slide. So to address the challenges that I had mentioned, so these are some of the ways, the key principles in moving forward. As what was mentioned by Thailand, we need more data. We don't have the numbers. We estimate from between 40 to 50,000 children in the plantations, but we don't exactly know where they are. So this is just based on estimates that we have. And also evidence on this value of education that we provide. So that is why a situation analysis, mapping of ALPs, mapping of alternative learning centers in the plantations, that's done by UNICEF. We are doing a study on out-of-school children in the state of Sabah. We did assessments and evaluations because we need to show to the plantation owners, to the stakeholders that this is working and this is the evidence that we have. So we need studies and also look into legislation and policies. Leading to good quality education, qualified teachers. The ones coming from Indonesia, they are qualified, but they are also local teachers who are not qualified. The curriculum, which curriculum are we exactly using here? Is it the Indonesian curriculum? Can we use 100% Indonesian curriculum in the school in Malaysia? So that is a concern. Accreditation and certification, yes, we've worked on that, provided by the Indonesian government, and also on the infrastructure. One of the studies stated that the living quarters that were given to teachers were of poor quality. So when the study came up, action was taken by the bigger plantation owners because it reflects badly on their image when such a report comes out from an international organization. In this case, it was UNICEF. So strategic partnerships, G2G, of course, what we have for the kids today is because of the bilateral cooperation. If not, it was just a piecemeal kind of approach. ASEAN, UN agencies, we can always play a role because when we speak of refugees, when we speak of migrants, it is not just the problem of the country. It's not a problem just for Malaysia or Thailand. it can be addressed at a higher level. It is cross-cutting between government agencies, not just MOE, but other ministries as well. There's the possibility of financing model where the private sector can come in. And then, of course, the resilience and sustainability of this project. We want to make sure that the project stays and benefits the kids. And also, finally, enhance family and community awareness on the rights to education, to provide them with knowledge so that they understand that the best place for their child is in school. It's nowhere else but the school. And also the value of education. It is not, it is possible to change the quality of life of the whole family when the child is educated. And also it is an opportunity to address public perceptions. This is important, not only for education, but also for security, for example, in the state. Thank you.